Changes to the lines and D pairings at Tuesday's practice. What will that mean Wednesday night as the Caps take on the Sens? I'll discuss next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. The Caps season has started, and I would love to talk Capitals hockey with you one-on-one, and we can do that on subtext. Just check the show description for more details. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. In today's episode of Locked On Capitals, we talk about a certain record was broken for the Capitals and Capital One Arena, and it's not necessarily a good thing. We'll talk about that in the show. A little bit later, we will talk about the Capitals did not get the desired result that they were looking for against the Flames. Sure, they won the game, but it wasn't a convincing win, and it wasn't a well-oiled machine. What changed at practice? But just to get it going here, I will talk to you about the players that were missing from Tuesday's practice and ultimately what it means for the Capitals. So as we take a look at the last game, there were a lot of players that really kind of had to step up and take on extra minutes for this team. And subsequently, those players, a couple of them anyway, missed Tuesday's practice. And as they should, they worked very hard in the game. And the Capitals, like I say, ended up finding a way to pick up the victory, but they struggled the entire game. Carlson and Nic Dowd are taking a maintenance day today per the Caps. Lindgren, meanwhile, is day to day with an upper body injury suffered in the morning skate yesterday. That was on Monday. So, and this is some of the things that we're already starting to see come into focus, and we're just have 2 games under our belt, is injuries and needing to rest players. And that is some of the perils of having the second oldest team in the NHL. You take a look at Carlson. Carlson skated a game high 29 minutes, 25 seconds of ice time against Calgary, logging heavy time. And that's one of the things, they expect a lot out of John Carlson. If we remember last season, when he missed time, there were players on the defense that really had to step up. It was Eric Gustafsson when he was on this team, not to mention a lot of other players on the blue line that really had to pull their weight. But for Carlson to be playing 29 minutes, 25 seconds is a lot of time for anyone to take off, regardless of his age. I don't want to make it an age thing. And the Caps are expecting more out of him. Like I said, Carlson did not even do that one single game last season that he even skated 28 minutes. So he got more action in that last game than in any other game that he got last season. So I think that, the Capitals saw that there were certain breakdowns in some of the younger players, perhaps maybe weren't necessarily up for it. So you want to put out a really rock solid defenseman. In that case, it's going to be John Carlson, the best blue liner in the Capitals organization right now, and one of the best in the NHL. And he proved his worth. He didn't really need to prove anything. I know, and I think all Caps fans know that John Carlson is just a huge force on the Caps blue line, and he proved that by skating 29-25. That is a lot of time for a blue liner to take on. Nic Dowd as well played 15:06. 5:37 was on the PK. So as we know, players that are skating on the penalty kill, that's that much more difficult. You're trying to kill off that penalty, and you're really putting your body through, the rigors of an NHL season and an NHL game. And Dowd was up for the challenge. But what is one of the things that we know is that Dowd had that core surgery done this past offseason. So I don't think that the Capitals necessarily want to push him too much. One of the things that you don't want to have happen is to have one of these injuries exacerbated, and then you're kind of really out. So for the Capitals to have Nic Dowd out would be not optimal. It would not be optimal for John Carlson to be out. And it doesn't necessarily always need to be like, an injury to your knee, or, it doesn't need to be a broken bone. Sometimes you can just pull muscles. And sometimes if you're overexerted, that's what can happen. If it's hamstrings, calves, groin, whatever the case may be. I've seen pec injuries in the NFL, that when you're overexerting yourself, those kind of things happen. And those are the things that happen that much more to players that are getting older. Like I talked about, the Capitals, regardless of the fact that they added a lot of young players to this team, they are still the second oldest team in all of the NHL. So I think to a certain extent, you're going to have to kind of pump the brakes on some of these veterans that have been here some time. Alex Ovechkin, I'm going to go ahead and put him in that category. I don't really see the Capitals sitting him a whole lot just because they need him. I know he's, off to a slow start. I mean, we're only 2 games in. Let's not get crazy, but he did have a hard time finding production. But that's what you're going to notice with some of these players that, are on the wrong side of 30, is that they're going to need a little bit more rest. I think that Nick Backstrom, who's still coming back from that hip resurfacing procedure, I haven't seen any weakness, but you got to think that he's still probably not 100%. He's going to say he's 100%, but just even if you want to subtract the hip resurfacing procedure from the equation, just again, another guy that's on the wrong side of 30. This is quite a race for this team, a marathon, if you will, and we don't want to overexert some key players this early in the season. So I wouldn't read too much into it. I do expect to see John Carlson in the game against the Sens. Same goes with Nic Dowd. Not the same story for Charlie Lindgren, however, is that he's going to be missing some time. Charlie Lindgren is day-to-day, so Clay Stevenson will stay with the team until his return. He will be with the team as they make their trip up to Ottawa. And Clay Stevenson, from what I've seen and, a brief sample size in the NHL, seems like he's up for the task. I do expect Darcy Kemper to get, the starts here going forward, unless there's a back-to-back coming up. And I don't see, Charlie Lindgren missing that much time. So I don't think it's going to be, that much of a concern. I guess I don't know the nature of Charlie's injury, so I guess it remains to be seen. But if he's listed as day-to-day, chances are that it's not that serious. Now, if you are a fan of Capitals history, you do remember Tom Wilson was also day-to-day when they were in the playoffs against the Panthers. Everyone was saying maybe it's going to be the next game. He's going to come in and save the Capitals. What do we know? Tom Wilson said, guys, I tried. I just went out. My knee did not feel right. I couldn't do it. I don't want to paint it with a broad brush and going to say that Charlie Lindgren's going to be the same way. However, it is a concern. And what is one of the things that's reassuring for the Capitals is that they have an abundance of wealth in the net minding department. If it's Clay Stevenson, if it's Hunter Shepard, Garen Bjorklund, Mitchell Gibson, there's just a plethora of different options for the Capitals, not all necessarily NHL ready goalies. But with that said, they do have some really grade A goalies in the wing. So that is one of the things that you can kind of hang your hat on, is that the Capitals are in a good position. Also, in some other movement, this is per NHL.com's Tom Glitti. Joel Edmondson skated on Tuesday in a light blue non-contact jersey. If he's placed on LTIR retroactive to the first game of the season, he'll be eligible to return no sooner than November 8th. So he is going to be missing some time. If you take a look at it, we're already a good chunk through October, so not the end of the world. I think that they have good options on the team, whether it be Lucas Johansson or Alex Alexiev. Not to say that if those guys falter a little bit, that they don't have guys in the wings down in Hershey as well. See Vinny Iorio, that kind of thing. So there are plenty of options. And one of the good things about the Capitals is, for the most part, I think they have really good backup options, either on the team as healthy scratches, or players that are down in Hershey that they can call upon. That is what is important. But those are the things to look for. The players that were missing from practice. I know that sometimes people say, the headline of the blog is that Dowd and Carlson missed practice. What does this mean? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Well, it doesn't really mean anything. It was a maintenance day. So as you listen or watch this program here, know that that is what is going on. Nothing more, nothing less. And Charlie Lindgren, again, day to day, that is what we know. So the Capitals ultimately are in a good position. I just think that again, it's important to rest these players to start out the season. We don't want to overexert them. Again, we don't want to be dealing with injuries and that kind of thing this early in the season. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about how Spencer Carberry and the Capitals shook up the lines and the D pairings. Listen, they got the win, but it wasn't an easy win. It required a shootout. This team lacks shots on goal. They need a change. What kind of change can we expect? We'll talk about that straight ahead. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home the win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers only. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last minute deals, all with great prices and views from your seat and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets, and it's the guesswork, it's the stress, the concert you were waiting for, your sports team, the stand-up comedian. They have it all covered with Game Time. So stop stressing and get Game Time right now. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you a complete peace of mind with your first purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Just use promo code Locked On NHL. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So in this next segment here, we are going to talk about how Spencer Carberry and the Capitals took the snow globe and shook it all up. Obviously, what was going on on the ice with the Penguins, what was going on with the Flames was not getting it done. And they need a change, and they need a change in a hurry. Again, people will point to the fact that the Capitals picked up the win, shootout win, and they definitely struggled to get shots on goal. So that is a good place to start. Suffices to say, Spencer Carberry and the Caps need to ignite the offense. Washington only managed 42 total shots to open the season. No, nope, nope, nope. Not in one game. 42 shots between the Penguins and the Flames game. That is not going to cut it. What is going wrong that they cannot get more shots on net? What is going on that they end up getting stuck up in their own end? Things need to change. In the first period against the Calgary Flames, the Caps had just 3 shots on goal. And as I watched this, I had my phone on and Twitter and every other social media platform that's talking about the Capitals, and everyone was going, here we go again. this is going to be a long season. And, people are, quick to push the panic button. They're quick to jump overboard from the ship that is the Washington Capitals. But I think that, to a certain extent, Spencer Carberry is still learning the lines. I know that we went through the preseason. I know that we went through all that, but he's still trying to see where the chemistry lies with the lines, with the D pairings. And I think that, when you saw Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom and TJ Oshie on the same line together, that was more just about nostalgia and familiarity. Because I think that he looked historically on some of the lines that worked for the Capitals. But let's be honest, if you think about it, Ovechkin, Backstrom have not really played together on the same line for quite some time, even last season. I mean, you just saw brief glimpses of that. Ultimately, that was a successful line years ago, not necessarily the case now. And I'm not here to disparage anything, to say anything about Backstrom or TJ Oshie. It's just, it didn't seem to work. And Alex Ovechkin in particular seemed to be snake bitten out there. The Caps mix things up with the lines and D pairings to try to create a spark with scoring and just even getting shots on goal. That's half the battle. So, good things happen to players that shoot on the net. Eventually, they've got to find the back of the net, right? That is logic anyway. But if you talk to the players on the team, they're like, that's what you think watching your television at home or sitting in the stands. If you're on the ice playing against other NHL players, it's not as easy as it looks. And another player to, I don't know if I want to say be concerned about, being that we are only 2 games under our belt here, but Ovechkin is off to a slow start, who didn't record a shot on goal on Monday. They mixed that up by putting Ovi with Dylan Strome and Tom Wilson. I like that. I think that that is a good lineup. I think that's a good line for the Capitals. I think it's at least worth a look. I would actually try that out in the game because, again, I don't want to say anything bad about Backstrom and Oshie, but there just wasn't a spark. And the season's not so long that you can just mess around and keep trying things over and over again and think you're going to get different results. TJ Oshie got some work in with Connor McMichael and Evgeny Kuznetsov. Again, I like that. But what is one of the things I would like more than anything is to see Connor McMichael at center. But being the mature young man that he is, he has said that he's learning more and more about how to be a great winger. He says that, ultimately I would love to be a center, but I'm, making the most of my opportunity playing at wing. And he's learning how to be more comfortable playing that position. And of course, it's paying off as you've seen him score a goal. So Backstrom with Sonny Milano and Matthew Phillips. Matthew Phillips, you got to say, is the feel-good story of the Caps season 2 games in, the third game tonight, Wednesday night. But, a player that came here from Calgary, kind of discarded by the Calgary organization, came here and scored a goal against his former team. And he's doing it against great odds. It's, your heart kind of goes out to Matthew Phillips. And because the first thing people mention when they talk about him is his size. Connor, and it's even players on his own team, Connor McMichael, Alex Ovechkin. He's pretty good for a little guy. That's got to kind of give him a bit of a complex. I think that his confidence and his swagger exudes from the fact that he knows, I get it, guys, that I'm a small guy, but I'm a really good player, and I'm going to show you why that my size doesn't matter. So Matthew Phillips, for me, the feel-good story so far, and I think that Backstrom, Milano, and Phillips looks pretty good. The fourth line saw Anthony Mantha in, and Alexei Protas moved to center with Nic Dowd taking a maintenance day. So that is not as clear for me. I do expect that Mantha will be out again. I would be surprised if he is in. I think, again, he just slotted in because Nic Dowd had a day off. I do want to see Anthony Mantha get another opportunity. One of the things that Spencer Carberry said is, listen, Anthony Mantha is an offensive player. That's what he is. Defense is not his bag. So if the Capitals, can bring more out of his offense and they can help him work on his defense, maybe that there is a shot that, they can turn him into a reclamation project and turn him into at least a decent player that is helping this team in their goal of winning games and scoring goals. And at the end of the day, it's what is right for him. It's what's right for the Capitals as they are paying him a substantial amount of money. D pairings as well got mixed up with John Carlson also missing Tuesday's practice for maintenance. Rasmus Sandin worked with Alex Alexiev. Martin Faravari worked with Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and Lucas Johansson with Nick Jensen. Again, I know we'll see, John Carlson in the game Wednesday night against the Sens, unless, of course, he gets injured between now and the start of the game. But I don't see that being the case. There's not a whole lot to read into that other than he's taken some time off. Give the guy a bit of a break. He skated almost the entire duration of the game. I think he deserves a break. So I'm getting you guys caught up with what went on at practice on Tuesday. I do like it. I do like that Spencer Carberry's not just kind of sitting back and saying, well, things will take care of themselves. They're not going to take care of themselves. And to a certain extent, I'm happy that he got his first win as an NHL coach, but don't rest on that. There is still plenty of work that needs to get done. And, to turn this team into a competitive team and a year in and year out basis, because there's a lot on the line there. You want players in the stands. Ultimately, that is what's keeping the lights on and paying the players and all that kind of thing. So that is what would be best for the Capitals and their fans. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about how the Capitals broke a sellout streak and what that means for the Capitals. And then to close out the show, I will have your fan comments. I'll talk about that coming up. Alex Ovechkin scores a goal. The Caps win the Stanley Cup. And if you want to win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. These are all possible scenarios for this season, but to have a chance at winning big, you need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. As the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. It makes watching the games that much more fun, guys. Listen, seeing is believing. I was not into it. I tried it out. I loved it. I am a believer in Sleeper, and I do think you should be as well. With stud players like Tom Wilson and Alex Ovechkin, all you need to do is pick more or less on stats for these stars. Choose stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me, Caps fans, 100 times payouts on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right so you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleepers details and terms of use for more details. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Capitals broke a long-standing record that is nothing to be too proud of. To be honest with you, this was a piece that I saw from Bailey from the Washington Post, and RMNB also covered it with their thoughts on it. I'll give you my thoughts. I guess I'm not surprised. I think that we are starting to see the end of the Rock the Red era. The Capitals break the sellout streak after 14 years. That is crazy. And, some people say, well, there were people selling tickets online, that those stats aren't exactly accurate. I'm telling you that the eye test is true. When I watched the game, when they panned the audience, there were a lot of open holes at Capital One Arena. And, there's a couple different ways to look at it. You could say it was a slow start. You could say it was a really poor season last season. They missed the playoffs for the first time since 2014. Or you could just say it's early. Maybe the fans are like, it's still early. They're playing the Flames. Who really cares about the Flames? Sorry, Flames fans. You got to think if they were playing the Blackhawks with Connor Bedard or something like that, that would garner more interest. Or really, are the Capitals fed up with this lineup? Are they ready for a change? Do they see the writing on the walls? That, I've seen that you've plugged players here and there, but it's not enough. We know as fans it's not going to be enough, and we're not going to sink our hard-earned money into tickets for a team that's not going to win games. That's a whole lot of conjecture on my part. I get that, but I'm trying to paint the picture in my mind why that would be. So what are some of the things that we know for sure, is things are tight. Gas is more expensive now than it's ever been. So is groceries. So is everything else. if you're a person that works a 9 to 5 like I do, you notice that when you have a paycheck and you go to fill up your tank and you get groceries and you do this or that, at the end of all of that, you're not left with a whole lot. So what does that mean? Is there's not a lot of disposable income for fans to go and see games. That's at least part of the equation. I do think that there is something to the fact that people kind of know that this isn't 2018 anymore. And Nick Backstrom and Alex Ovechkin and John Carlson are much older than they were then. And I know that, they are kind of like brands now. They're like Ford and Chevy and all these other brands out there. It's Ovechkin and Backstrom, really great pickup trucks. And, that's something to hang your hat on. But what is one of the things that we know, and I'm not here to disparage Alex Ovechkin or Nick Backstrom at all. I think they're really great players. But with that said, they are on the wrong side of 30. Even the greatest fall to father time. Take a look at Tom Brady, for example. He played much longer than anyone else, usually does at that position. But age caught up with him like it's going to catch up with everyone. The causes of concern for me here are it's all about keeping butts in seats and who is going to be the jersey that everyone's wearing at Capital One Arena. For me, of course, right now, it's still Alex Ovechkin. It's still Backstrom and Oshie and Carlson. And years ago, it was like Holtby, that kind of thing. But we're getting further and further and further away from that 2018 team. We're definitely trying to take that red jersey and squeeze all the rock the red juice we possibly can out of it, but it's only drops coming out anymore. It used to be in 2019, you would squeeze that, or in 2018, and you'd fill up a cup with it. Not the case anymore. It's only when they're done squeezing it, there's only drops in the cup. And I don't want to say that this team's over, and I still think that there's hope for this year. But, the sniff test, taking a look at the fans not showing up, that kind of thing, seeing the Capitals struggle immensely in the first 2 games, despite the fact that they have a new head coach. Those are all things to factor into the calculator. So the streak was 588 home games, and that streak was broken Monday night. That's quite something. Again, not something to be a fan of. And this is all during Alex Ovechkin chasing down Wayne Gretzky. You think that would put butts in seats more than anything else, but, it's what have you done for me lately? I think Capitals fans, and tell me what your thoughts are. Hit me up on subtext or on Twitter, on YouTube. Let me know. What is it for you? Why do you think that the Capitals fans are not showing up and selling out Capital One Arena? I almost want to keep calling it the Verizon Center. I'm getting that old. What is it about that? Do you think that is the case? What is the root cause of fans not wanting to show up, at least selling out like they used to? It used to be a given. I would love to hear your thoughts, but it is, got to be concerning for ownership. Ted Leonsis. It's got to be concerning for Brian McClellan and Dick Patrick, the AGM, the president, and it's got to be for Ross Mahoney, the AGM. Those are all things to be concerned about. But it's still early. I mean, the third game is going to be played Wednesday night. I do not want to get ahead of myself. I just like to, as you can tell, I'm an opinionated person. That's how I got a job doing this. So I, paint pictures in my head and pontificate. And I think to myself, well, why aren't there butts in the seats? It's way too early in the year. If there's ever a time for people to be drinking the Capitals Kool-Aid, it's right now. And it seems like it's not the case. So something new I'm going to start on the show is reading your comments. So hit me up on subtext. Again, there's more a description on how to do that in the show description on subtext. You can send me a message. We can text back and forth about Caps during the game if you'd like, that kind of thing. Otherwise, you could also message me on YouTube, on Twitter, and give me your thoughts on what is going on with this team. And these are some of the comments that I've seen. This one here is from Bradley Joins 5784. He says, I think we need to rework our top 6. Ovi, Backstrom, Osh isn't working. Isn't it something we talked about that in this episode? It looks like. I think pairing Ovi and Kuzi or Strome can get him going. Putting Backstrom with a speedy winger like Snively or something like that can definitely make them an effective second line. Overall, good things are coming out of Phillips, Milano, Strome, and McMichael, but we need to integrate with our top six, instead of hiding them on the bottom 6. Those lines need role players like Dowd and Nicholas Abe-Kubel on them for toughness and shutting down the opponent's top 6. Bradley, I agree with your assessment. I think that I can tell by the way you think and how you type that out there that you are well versed on this team. And I agree with that. I really can't argue with that. And it's interesting that you wrote this 6 hours ago, or that's what it's showing me on here. And that is what was evident at camp. They shook up the Ovi Backstrom the Ovechkin, Backstrom, Oshie line. So touche, that is good on you. So the next comment comes here from Butcher Pete 2286. He says, I was so excited to see McMichael and Phillips get those goals. On a side note, it's just me, or does Matthew Phillips look like a young Carl Hagelin? I think he meant to say Carl Hagelin on there. It was just a typo. A bit. I guess I think he does to a certain extent. He is a smaller man, but I do agree that I am excited about McMichael and Phillips, two young players on this team, to kind of finally change the image, at least slowly to a certain extent, the image that this is such an old team. And I'm excited to see what McMichael will be able to do through the duration of the season. Same thing goes with Matthew Phillips. So the next one here is from Billy Elrod 1779. Glad for the win. Not so happy about our level of play. Thought Kuzi wasn't competing 5-on-5. Even Oshie looks average right now, but sometimes it takes a while to get the Russian machine cranked. And Billy, thank you. You're always commenting on YouTube. Again, I agree with your assessment. There are very astute fans that watch and listen to the show. That is what makes this show so great. The next comment comes from Brian Johnson, 9899. The team is led by our younger players. I think the future will look bright. This team and the fans will rally around them. And again, doesn't that kind of tie in with what I was talking about in the last segment? I do think that the fans are looking for younger players. I think that obviously Alex Ovechkin is keeping people in the stands. I think that, you take a look at it, John Carlson and, Darcy Kemper, but, some of those players that you really kind of were, like I said, marquee names are getting older, and Oshie isn't quite what he was, even though he was getting, he always seems to put himself in the right spot. Backstrom, I still think that he needs to up his game a little bit. But then there are players, like Sonny Milano, which I haven't spoke about tonight, played one heck of a game. Just really a diamond in the rough that the Capitals were able to find last season. It was around the same time that they acquired Nicolas Aube-Kubel. I ultimately think that the Capitals will have Aube-Kubel on this team if he performs in Hershey. It's kind of shooting a shot across his bow saying, listen, you're going to have to play better if you're going to be on the team, the Capitals, on the big roster this year. And I think that the message will be sent. You see that around baseball. If you're a baseball fan, a Nats fan, you saw how Luis Garcia, the second baseman, got sent down to the minors for a brief period, and he found his way. He came back, and subsequently, he got the message loud and clear, and he helped the Nationals, even though they didn't get their desired result. Same thing goes for someone like Nicolas Aube-Kubel. I think that if he's smart and he has the right attitude and he doesn't sulk and moan, I think he'll have a spot on this team. So really, really great comments. I love those comments. Those were on YouTube. Again, the best way to do that is send them to me on subtext, because you know what's going to happen? It's going to go chirp, chirp, and I'm going to look at my phone and go, hey, this person just texted me, and it'll show that it's on subtext there. So it is interesting. That is one way to do it. Otherwise, like I said, you can do it on YouTube. You can do it on Twitter, however you'd like. And I know that this is a video medium that I'm showing you a lot of these on here right now, but also much love goes out to the audio listeners of, that is where I started, was audio podcasting. So the love goes out to the audio fans. Again, the same thing goes if you're not on YouTube, even though there's not really any excuse why you don't have YouTube. Even if you don't use it, it comes stock on most every smartphone. So even though you don't use it, just think of it that way. First thing you want to do, type in Locked On Capitals. Second thing, hit the subscribe button. We're pushing for 1,000 this year. Can you believe it? I think it's attainable with your guys' help, and just use it for messaging me if you would like. And if you have some time, check out the videos. Sometimes they're more engaging when you watch them on your phone or on your television, however you would like. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering your Washington Capitals. And I want to thank you guys that listened all offseason and this season and watched on YouTube. You the fans, you the ones that commented that I read tonight, you are what makes this show great, and I will be forever in your debt. All right. Once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.